Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for today's writing lesson. Today is Wednesday and we're working on lesson 2, which is about informative writing. So today we are going to be continuing our process of writing our information report about Australian animals. So let's have a look at our learning intention and success criteria. We are learning to write an information report about an Australian animal using our gathered information. Here's our success criteria. I can write about the animal's habitat. I can write about the animal's diet. I can write an interesting fact about the animal, and I can use the information report checklist. Here's another quick reminder that we are writing about Australian animals, and last week you chose an Australian animal to focus on. That is the same animal you are going to be writing about today, and you hopefully should have started your information report from yesterday's lesson, so we're just going to be continuing to write that today. And just quickly, we will go through our steps to writing an information report, just to refresh our memories about where we're up to. So last week, we researched our information. We also gathered our information and put it into our gathering information charts. This week, we're focusing on writing our final report and using our information report checklist to make sure we've got everything we need. Now today, there are 4 things we need to focus on doing. And the first thing is to write about the animal's habitat. So you're going to write a sentence about where the animal lives. The second thing is to write about the animal's diet. You're going to write about what the animal eats. And the next thing is to write an interesting fact about the animal. So this may be your interesting fact that you collected in your research last week. And the last thing is to use the information report checklist at the end of our lesson to make sure we've included everything we need in our report. Let's go back to our gathering information chart that we wrote on last week, because we are going to continue to use the information on there that we collected for our writing today. So if you tuned into yesterday's lesson, you would have seen that we already wrote about the classification and the appearance. So that means today we're going to be focusing on the diet information, the habitat information, and the interesting fact that you wrote. So I showed you how to do this yesterday as well, but I will remind you again just quickly that we are focusing on the most important bits of information. And you would have seen yesterday in my example of an information report about kangaroos that I only chose two parts of information from each section. So for example, from the appearance section, I only chose to write about the long tail and the pointy ears. And you might find that for the diet section today, I might choose to only write about grasses and insects in my diet sentence. And for the habitat, I might only choose to write about grasslands and woodlands. And then for the interesting fact, of course, you just write the whole interesting fact sentence that you wrote last week. So just remember, you're not writing really long sentences. You're just picking 2 things from each section that you'd like to focus on and putting those into your sentences. Let's quickly remind ourselves of the structure of an information report. So we've got the title at the top, which we did yesterday. We've got the classification next, which we did yesterday as well. And we also did the appearance yesterday. So that means today we are focusing on doing the habitat, the diet, and the interesting fact. And when we're done with those 3 sentences, our written part of our information report is complete. Now you will see my example of an information report about kangaroos, and you will see that I've got my work from yesterday. So I've got my title, my classification, and my appearance. You don't need to write those again today. You are just going to be focusing on writing about the habitat, the diet, and your interesting fact. So my sentence for the habitat is kangaroos live in grasslands and woodlands. My sentence for diet is kangaroos eat grasses and insects. And my interesting fact is a group of kangaroos is called a mob. Now, like I said in the last slide, we did not have to write every single bit of information that we included on our gathering information chart. I just chose to write about grasslands and woodlands. And then I chose to write about grasses and insects. And of course, for our interesting fact, we still keep that as a full sentence. Now you will see on the next piece of paper that I have included my labeled illustration of a kangaroo that I did last week. So you might still have your labeled illustration from last week, and you might want to cut that out or copy it and draw it again and put it with your information report this week, or just take a photo of it and put it next to this week's writing in your doc for your completed work for this week. So you can see I've got my picture of the kangaroo, and I've got my lines for my labels, and I've got my words for my labels. So I've got my pointy ears here, brown fur, long tail, and long legs. So just make sure you also include a labeled illustration of your chosen Australian animal and put it somewhere next to your writing for today. So that will be part of your completed information report. We need a labeled illustration for our information report to finish it off. So we can see a picture of what the animal actually looks like, and we can also see the important features of its body too. So once you have looked at my example today, you can go off when you're ready and continue to write your information report about your chosen Australian animal. Remember, you're focusing on habitat, diet, and your interesting fact. And you can also make sure you include your labeled illustration as well. When you're done with those, make sure you take a photo and upload it to your completed work document on Google Classroom, because like I said yesterday, Miss Coote and I will be putting together some information report books for you to read online and have a look at all the wonderful work your classmates have done for their information reports. All right, let's go through our checklist to make sure we have got everything we need in our completed information report. So yesterday we wrote our classification. We also wrote our appearance. Today we had to focus on habitat, diet, and interesting facts. So we wrote a sentence about the habitat, we wrote a sentence about the diet, and we wrote a sentence about the interesting fact. So hopefully you have included all these things. Go back to your written information report that you did today and just check off these things in your head to make sure you've got them in your report. All right, everybody, it's now time to reflect on our lesson. And I'd just like to say thank you all for your wonderful effort. I can't wait to read your finished information reports and see all the information that you could find about Australian animals. I especially can't wait to learn some new things from your information reports. I'm sure you've got some wonderful, interesting facts in there that I probably didn't even know about before. So I'm really looking forward to reading your work and seeing your finished product and putting it together into an excellent information booklet about Australian animals for all of you to see. Let's go through our learning intention and success criteria. We are learning to write an information report about an Australian animal using our gathered information. We did that. Let's check our success criteria. I can write about the animal's habitat. We did that. I can write about the animal's diet. We did that too. I can write an interesting fact about the animal. We've got that. And I can use the information report checklist. We did that at the very end of our lesson to make sure we had all the important parts of our report. Thank you again for participating in another writing lesson. I hope you've enjoyed learning about different kinds of animals and about Australian animals as well. That was our particular focus at the end of this term for our informative writing unit. And I have to say, I am really impressed with the writing that people have done. Miss Coote and I are very, very proud of all the hard work that you have done for our writing unit this term. Keep up the fantastic writing, and we'll see you next time. Bye.